Echoes of the past. My name is Maya. I am 28 years old, living in a quiet coastal town where the sound of the waves usually brings comfort to others, but for a long time, it only echoed the restlessness in my heart. For years I woke up with a heavy chest, carrying a past that felt too heavy for one person to bear. When I was little, my world was painted in bright colors. My mother was a seamstress who filled our small house with beautiful fabrics and soft lullabies. My father was a gentle gardener who always smelled like fresh earth and rain. I had a younger sister, Chloe, who used to hold on to the hem of my dress wherever we went. But light can fade quickly. When I was 10, my father went to work one rainy morning and simply vanished. The police found his truck near the river weeks later, but no answers ever came. The grief broke my mother. Within 2 years, sadness turned into a physical sickness, and she became a shadow of herself. At 12 years old, I learned how to stretch a dollar, how to soothe my crying sister, and how to cook basic meals. Before my mother closed her eyes for the last time, she pressed a small silver ring into my palm and whispered, "Keep Chloe safe. Be the anchor." The shadow years. After she passed, we were taken in by our estranged uncle, Arthur. He was a bitter, volatile man who resented the sudden responsibility. At first he kept his distance, but soon alcohol became his constant companion. The house turned into a minefield. A dropped plate, a creaking floorboard, or coming home 5 minutes late from school would trigger a storm of shouting and broken glass. I learned to make myself invisible. I kept the house spotless and made sure Chloe was tucked away in her room before Arthur came home. I bore the brunt of his anger so she wouldn't have to. When I turned 17, a boy named Julian started working at the local library. He had kind green eyes and always saved the newest books for me. He noticed the exhaustion in my posture. One afternoon he handed me a warm cup of tea and said, "You don't have to carry the whole world by yourself." Those words were water to a desert. We began meeting in secret, sharing dreams of escaping the suffocating town. When Julian suggested we run away together to the city, I felt a rush of desperate hope. I couldn't take Chloe yet, she was too young and terrified to leave school, but I promised her I would build a safe haven and come back for her. I packed a single bag and stepped into the dark with Julian. From one cage to another. For the first few months the city felt like freedom. Julian and I shared a tiny studio apartment and I found work at a flower shop. But when Julian lost his job, the fairy tale shattered. The gentle boy vanished, replaced by a controlling, angry stranger. He began monitoring my phone, accusing me of looking at others and drinking heavily. The first time he shoved me against the wall, he wept the next morning, begging for forgiveness. I stayed because I was terrified of going back to Arthur and I had no money to survive on my own. The turning point came when I discovered I was pregnant. I hoped a baby would bring back the boy I fell in love with. Instead, when I told him, he looked at me with cold fury and whispered, "You did this on purpose to ruin my life." The abuse escalated until one night, fearing for the life growing inside me, I slipped out of the window while he slept. A kind stranger on the street saw me shivering in the rain and walked me to a local crisis center. From there I was transferred to a women's shelter. The shelter became my sanctuary. Surrounded by women who carried similar scars, I didn't feel judged. I felt understood. It was there that my daughter Ella was born. Looking into her bright eyes, I made a silent vow. The cycle ends with me. Reclaiming the light. With the help of the shelter advocates, I secured a job at a local bakery and rented a small one-bedroom apartment. I painted the walls a soft cream color and filled the windowsills with plants. I was finally breathing. But healing isn't a straight line. One afternoon, Julian appeared outside the bakery. He looked disheveled and desperate, begging to see his daughter. Panic paralyzed me, but I managed to step back inside and lock the door. I went straight to the police and, with the shelter's legal aid, began the process of filing for sole custody and a restraining order. During this terrifying time, I finally agreed to see a counselor at the shelter named Sarah. She helped me realize that survival wasn't something to be ashamed of. It was proof of my strength. I also reached out to Chloe, who was now an adult. Through tears, she told me she never blamed me for leaving, and that my bravery had inspired her to build her own independent life. Slowly, peace returned. I also met David, a quiet text editor who frequented the bakery. He didn't ask for my story until I was ready to tell it. He showed me what real love looks like: patience, respect, and safety. He never rushed me, and he celebrated every small milestone Ella reached. And you tomorrow. The day the judge granted me full custody and a permanent protective order, a weight I had carried since childhood dissolved. Today my life is still filled with hard work, but it is a life built on my own terms. I still double-check the locks at night, but I no longer wake up in fear. I now spend my weekends volunteering at the same shelter that saved me, holding the hands of women who arrive broken, whispering to them, "You are strong. You will survive." I live for the quiet mornings, the smell of fresh bread, Ella's laughter, and the steady, safe love I always deserved. If this story touched your heart, feel free to like, comment, and share. More inspiring stories of strength and resilience are coming soon.